Villopoto is the GOAT. I just hit play, then I float. What's up, my dudes? Ryan Villopoto, come back for 2019. This is something that's kind of been a bit of a recent stir in the motocross community because of Villopoto kind of getting back into racing quite a bit more now than he was. And obviously racing the Monster Cup was pretty crazy and all that. I really was not expecting that at all. And basically, a lot of people are getting this speculation that he's going to come back for 2019. I mean, that's actually quite a big amount of people that are thinking that. And even though I'm a Villopoto fan, think he's the greatest of all time and all that, I don't know. I even had somebody comment on a video and said, a reliable source told me that Villopoto is coming back for 2019 outdoors. So I don't know if that means anything. You know how YouTube comments are, but and ain't nobody really knows except Villopoto, and he may not even know yet either. So I don't know, but I will say that Villopoto will never be the 2012, 2013 Villopoto that we know. That dude is long gone. He's never coming back. You just simply can't get that back to that level. You can't do it. I mean, I look at it like if any of those motocross riders quit racing at that level for like 2 or 3 years, they're never going to get it back because it's so hard to even get to that level to begin with, and you have to have such focus, and I mean, it's on another level of dedication and all that. And it's not like you can just simplistically just come back after 4 years and just get right back like you were. It's just not, that's quite the unrealistic way to look at it, you know? And I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, Villopoto, he's going to go out there and whoop them, but I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. You know, I mean, of all your top riders, hardly ever do you see any of them quit riding for longer than or quit racing at that level for longer than, you know, like a year of their whole entire racing, you know, type of career that they've had. Like Roczen, he was out for how long? Like pretty much a full year. And some of those other dudes have been out for like a full year, but you seen what happened to Stewart. He was out for like, I think maybe 2 or something like that. He left in like, 14, came back in 16, something like that, and you saw what happened there. I mean, I don't really have to say much more to that, but it just changes them, you know, when they don't race with those guys, and then on top of all that, with Villopoto being with Yamaha instead of Kawasaki, and not even being on that same bike that he was on, everything's totally different now. So I was actually fairly impressed, though, that Villopoto was able to come out in the Monster Cup, and he was running basically like 9th, 10th, 11th in all 3 races, the entire race. I think that first one he was in the dead last and caught back up to that spot, but that's pretty much where he finished in all the races. I think he got like 9th overall in the Monster Cup. So, and that was his first time back in 4 years racing with these guys. So it's, I mean, there's a possibility that it'll come back, but I don't think you're going to see the Villopoto that you're thinking or that a lot of people are thinking. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be that guy that's like wicked, super, just like on this alien level of smooth and quickness that Villopoto had like no other rider has ever had before. You know, I mean, he still has that, and you can still see it in his riding. Like there's still that Villopoto that you know, but it's just it's on way tamed down of a level than what it was. You know, it's the same kind of riding style. It's just not as fast. It's just not to that level like it was. So definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think about it. If you want to see Villopoto come back, I think it'd be cool just to see him racing again. But you guys know how basically, dude, I like that billboard out there, Diana Dahlgren. Oh, that's nice. But yeah, basically, you know how when Villopoto was racing like in 2014, his last year, he was pretty wore out on it, dude. I mean, he was pretty much done with it. Like, you could just see it in his interviews and everything. He was just done. He'd been doing it his whole life and at that level his whole life, and he was just tired of it, and there really was nothing else more to it. So then he retired, right, and kind of did a couple of off the beaten trail races and stuff like that. But then Then we didn't really see him for like, what, 2 years or something like that. And then now he's kind of slowly started to come back, started racing some two-strokes, got on the Yamaha team, did one of those let me totally swap manufacturers and teams, even though I'm totally retired, pulling a Jeremy McGrath, right? But so it's just, yeah, basically that happened. And then now we're kind of seeing him slowly come back into it. Honestly, I didn't even think he would ever race anything that had the AMA dudes in it again. But he's going over there to race with Chad Reed in Australia. He's doing that again for the second year. And, yeah, so it's interesting. It's like Villopoto. What I'm trying to prove here is it's like Villopoto is starting to get his love back for it. You can just see it. He's enjoying it again. He's actually happy to be out there again. Like, it's fun to him again. And whereas in 2014, you could just tell on his face it wasn't fun anymore. It was just he was totally over it. Like, it was too much pressure, too much you had to worry about, too much you had to deal with, too much having to do it when you didn't want to do it and forcing to do it to be that good and all that. And so that's what I'm saying. It's interesting to see it's like Villopoto, but the dude that's actually enjoying it now. So that kind of plays into it is possible that we will see him a lot more in 2019 just simply because of how much he's showing that he's enjoying it. You know, it's like when someone's acting like that, I mean, anything's possible at that point. But, yeah, it'd be cool to see him come back. I don't know if you're going to see him in Supercross. I would assume that it would be more likely to see him in like a couple outdoor rounds or something just for the heck of it. You know how he's done some of those 125 dream races and like Washougal, stuff like that. You'd probably see him like maybe just race the 450 Washougal motos or something like that. I doubt you'd see him on the full schedule, full season, anything like that. So it may end up being 2020 before you see Villopoto back at like A1 or something, and it's not going to be like Villopoto trying to win the title. I don't. That's a far stretch, boy. Like I said, I mean, you just don't get that back, and he knows that. You know, why the hell would you retire and then just try to come back just like you were? It's kind of silly. It's kind of, and that's a big reason why Ricky Carmichael has not done any. He's been one of them that's not really done any actual AMA races since he's retired. He's obviously raced with Chad Reed in Australia, stuff like that, but it's just a whole different ballgame when the retired dudes actually come back and race an actual AMA race with the big 450 boys. That's a whole different animal than like any of those little side races or 125 races or any of that kind of stuff. It's just a whole different kind of thing. So either way, but it would be cool to see Villopoto out there. I feel like if he was still on Kawasaki, he would be a lot more like the Villopoto that you knew, a lot more like the one that you had seen back then. And was he even racing like a factory bike at Monster Cup? I don't think he was. I don't think that's like a factory Yamaha. I think that's like, you know, your Yamaha that you go up here to the store and buy, and then it's got like some little trick parts on it. Like maybe Pro Circuits went in there and helped him out quite a bit, and then some little random parts here and there, but it's not factory in the sense of like Justin Barcia's Yamaha factory or anything like that. You know, it's not super factory like that. But maybe he would start getting more support if he did decide to go back in and race again. But it's just weird because you always go back to that thought of like, well, why'd you retire if you were going to come back and race like that again? I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is possible. I mean, it's possible that he will. But I know in the interview, this is a little bit of a bombshell here. If any of you guys are watching his little interview right before the Monster Cup, I think it was like Ralph Shaheen or somebody was interviewing him saying, he's like, oh, I got to ask you this because a lot of the fans are wondering, you know, does this mean like a comeback? Does this mean you're going to come back in 2019 or whatever? And he was like, he didn't just right away say, no, that's not my plan. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just not trying to do that. Like, you know, someone that really wasn't trying to do that would like come out and straight up tell you like, nah, I'm just not doing that. You know, that's not the goal here. Like he would just come out and say that, but that's not what he said. He didn't just come out and say, no, I'm not doing it. It was more like nonchalantly like, oh, well, I don't know, but my kids have my full attention right now, basically is kind of how he said it. So it is interesting for the, you know, kind of the theory hunters out here and the super fans of Villopoto and stuff like that. And I'm sure they're getting a little giddy just by hearing that kind of an interview like that. But it's interesting nonetheless of just seeing how he replied to that, almost like saying, yeah, I'm not just going to come out and tell you I'm coming back, but also I'm leaving that door wide open for me to come back and race some AMA races. So it's definitely possible. I mean, for him to race the Monster Cup, you know how much balls that takes to be out of it for 4 years and just go out there and line up with everybody. Like, regardless of his finishes, man, that took some... I mean, I was so happy just to see that he wasn't scared to get out there and race again with those guys. You know, that was so cool to just see that. And so he's obviously not scared to line up on a gate with all the AMA Supercross guys. You know, he's not scared to do it. So, I mean, it's possible. You know, it's one thing if they just stay on those little side races and don't do any of the AMA stuff, but I mean, Monster Cup, there's usually, and the thing about Monster Cup is them dudes are all riding balls to the wall. They ain't got nothing to lose. They're not riding for a championship, so they're all going probably a little faster than their average, normal, like, let me protect my points lead type of riding. So Villopoto is going right up against all them dudes that were riding hardcore. But I think it's just all about how much can Villopoto, how fast can he really get on this Yamaha? You know, that whole kind of side of it, you got to look at it like that, because I don't know. I mean, it's... one of my biggest things I always used to say about Villopoto, and the reason why he was so fast and so good, is he was on the same bike for like 6-7 years. And then even before that, before he was really in the pros, he was, I'm pretty sure I know he was on Yamaha when he was really young, but then he was on Kawasaki for a long time. Kawasaki, like all the way through the if I'm not mistaken, the Loretta Lynn's days, all the way up through 250s with Mitch, and then all the way up to the 450s, still on Kawasaki. So they had all that time, all that experience and ability to test the bike, figure this out, do this on the same bike. You know how a lot of those guys that change the teams just left and right, that it's hard for them to ever really get something going to that degree, because they're trying to figure out a new bike, and then the next year it's like trying to figure out this bike, and then they go to this team, and now they're trying to figure out this bike, and then they never get it fully learned, whereas you had Villopoto over here on that same 450 Kawasaki, just making it better and better and better every year, and it was just like unbeatable at that point. So that's something I've always said about Villopoto. It's such a smart decision for him to stay on Kawasaki and just make the bike better, 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 better. And so that's basically what I've always thought about it. But, like, for instance, if Dungey would have never went to KTM, guarantee you he would have been way more competitive with Villopoto back in those days, you know, when he went to KTM from Suzuki. But the flip side of it is he was one of the first dudes to win, you know, races and championships. I think he was the first one to win an SX championship on a KTM, so he did something for the brand. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, man. A lot of those dudes look at it like, ooh, it's a new, fresh start. Let me go to this other bike. But they don't realize how much ground they're losing because of how much they're having to learn that puppy. So, and I mean, with Chad Reed, good God, man. He's like been to every bike 5 or 6 times. It's just like, oh my goodness, bro. Like, how could you ever learn anything going from that many bikes that frequently? I don't know. But either way, basically, from what we saw at Monster Cup, Villopoto's in that somewhere around that top 10 range. And obviously when you get to the actual Supercross races, they're different because they have whoops. You can pass on them a little bit easier. You know, I don't even think Monster Cup has those big 85-foot triples right out of a corner because they don't want to make it too difficult for the little bikes on there. So, yeah, no, a lot of people talk about, oh, well, we're riding, when they talk about the amateurs riding on the Monster Cup, they act like they're riding on the same track as the pros are, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the amateurs. I mean, them dudes are quick, they're hitting some crazy stuff, but don't act like you can ride an 85 on a Supercross track that has massive whoops and, you know, huge 85-foot peaked-out triples right out of a bowl corner. Most 85s cannot do that. They can't do it. So some people need to tone it down a little bit when they say, oh, this 85 kid's tearing up this big Supercross track that all these big 450 riders are riding on. Like, chill out, dog. It's not the exact same kind of track. And I guarantee you when they have their little amateur day thing next year that they're doing on a lot of the Supercross tracks, those tracks will be toned down for amateur day or whatever that's supposed to be on like the Sunday after the main races. You guys know they're kind of doing that now. It's like the amateur Supercross thing or whatever. I guarantee they'll tone down them tracks, man. They're not gonna be the same exact track. Even though it is the same track, it's not the same obstacles. It's not the same jumps. They change it, man. And that's why they make Monster Energy Cup so different because they have to make it safe for the little riders. So either way, man, Villopoto comeback 2019. I don't know if we'll see it. It would shock me if Villopoto comes out and says, "Hey, dude, I'm lining up A1." I mean, that would really shock me. I would assume. I mean, maybe you could see him like in the middle of the season in some random Supercross race, or I don't know. There's just no telling. My mind is kind of all over the place for this. I just don't know what to think. Just by the way he was talking in that interview, you know, he wasn't like, "Nope, not doing it. No, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to try to make a comeback here." I mean, he was pretty much directly asked that question by Roush Shaheen, like, "Hey, fans want to know, does this mean like a 2017 or a 2019 comeback or whatever?" And he was just kind of like, "Well, I don't really know yet. My kids have my full attention." So I don't know, guys. I don't know what we're going to end up seeing out of this, but either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.